Call this meeting to order. I'll ask Councilman Henry Showalter if he'll turn the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have two public hearings set tonight. The first being council's intention to adopt an ordinance vacating a 15-foot wide by 85-foot long public utility and drainage easement interior to the rear property line at 750 George Edward Vie, tax parcel 495-8-13. Mr. Helms?
This is on the back of the property mentioned, and there's now a garage built over it. And because of mix-ups on the setback, we checked the setbacks, the garage ended up being built in the wrong place, so we can't use the easement. We don't need the easement, so we need to vacate it.
Okay. Is there anyone here to address this part of the public hearing? Hearing no one, we'll move to the second. It's council's intention to adopt an ordinance in regards to disposition of approximately 0.02 acres of town property located in the Diamond Hills Park adjoining 750 George Edward Vie, tax parcel 495-2-A.
This is the same property, and in order, not only built, the garage was not only built in the easement, it's built over the property line, 2 feet on one edge and 4 feet on the other. So the proposal is to sell them a piece of the land, 10 feet wide and 100 feet long, to extend their lot by 10 feet. So to build their garage will be on their property.
Okay. Anyone here to address this part of the public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question, Mr. Helms, on that?
Sure.
Both these items, Mr. Helms, are things that you feel like the town needs to go ahead and take care of, correct?
Yes.
That these are not things that are in any way in dispute amongst town staff, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
At least not
Mr.
that I've
Mayor,
heard
I'd
of.
like to move that we go ahead and add these to our discussion by mayor and council tonight and take action on them.
I would second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion and a second to move these two items down into discussion by mayor and council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing no one opposed, we'll move those to items 5 and 6. Very good. I'll now call the meeting back to order. I will ask council if you've had a chance to read the minutes that were presented to us. Any changes, suggestions, questions?
I move the minutes be adopted as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, minutes are approved. We have citizens' hearings tonight. This is the section when we always allow citizens to come and address us on a wide variety of items that may be on their mind or of concern to them. Our first is Russell Stone to present historical Cambria documents to town council. Mr. Stone?
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, it's with pleasure that I present you some copies of papers and minutes from the town of Cambria. Now, my dad was clerk of council there. I'm not even sure how long. He passed away in '79. I know he was there through the merger, and he served on the advisory committee when he merged with town of Christiansburg, I think for a period of about a year. So I think he was there probably 30 years or so before World War II. And when after he passed away, had these papers, and my mother passed away a few years back, and we found all these papers in an old case that he carried them in. Now, the house, fire gutted the house in, I believe, February of '68, and these papers survived it. Now, I assume that there was probably a safe or a vault at the old Cambria Town Hall. But anyway, he had copies of it. Some of it is handwritten, and some of it was done on his old Underwood typewriter. And I think it's interesting. Excuse me. Here's a copy of this. Here's a copy of the study by R. Stewart Royer and Associates, Consulting Engineers, Richmond, Virginia. Report feasibility of merger, Town of Christiansburg, Virginia, and Town of Cambria, April 1964. Now, I'm sure probably somewhere in the archives here with the town, there's probably quite a few copies of this, but just briefly would like to mention something I think is quite interesting. Anybody that does any research will be interested in this, because a lot of maps, the old boundaries, so forth and so on. Now, it mentions that on August 31st, 1963, and I got to think about it, I said, that sounds familiar, and I was thinking, yeah, I was on my way back to Fort Knox after basic training after a 2-week leave at that time. And the town of Christiansburg had 29 full-time employees. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I'd say there's probably just a few more than that now. Administrative, 4 people to municipal building. Police department, 6. You got a couple more than that now, Chief? Public Works had 19 people. And it's a lot of interesting things like that in here, and just another item I thought was interesting too, population. There's a list in here of the population from 1920, 1930, 1940, 1950, and 1960 of Christiansburg and Cambria. Now in 1960, the last entry in here, town of Christiansburg got 3,653 people. Cambria had 722. For a total of 4,375. Now, I didn't go through all this, because like this stuff has been packed away since, at least since the merger. And it also gives everything from utility cost, how much water line and sewer line and all that, about refuse collection. But I noticed one interesting thing here. The town of Christiansburg at that time charged $75 for a water connection. Now, I don't know, it's probably gone up a couple of bucks since then, but what is it now?
2,500.
How much?
2,500.
Yeah, it's gone up a couple.
Don't shut your water down, Russell.
So this is part of that. The other thing that I'd like to, that I also found in the collection was the old original stamp for Cambria, and I'll put that in the museum or whatever. But anyway, that's what it is, and that thing is heavy. The other thing I found was the rubber stamp. It says Town of Cambria for deposit only. That they use the stamp, and you can tell back then they made quality stamps, because as old as this was probably back in the 50s, 40s or 50s when this thing was made. And finally, the main, this old case, which is at least 70 plus years old, with the papers in it, and these have been, there's old copies of town minutes going back in the 40s, 46, 48, 47, and into the 50s. And I did not go through all of this, because some of this is kind of delicate. But I did find a couple things I think people might be interested in. I'll just briefly go. Here is, well, from A.B. Carell, Clerk of Montgomery County Circuit Court. There are some information in here when the Cambria had their elections, and the clerk certified the elections. And another interesting thing Here is a proposal or quotation from Christiansburg Motor Corporation. I think at that time, Mr. Straub owned it. It's a Town Council, Cambria, Virginia, in response to your request, we wish to submit quotation on a Ford dump truck. We can furnish a 57 Ford F600 2-ton truck, chassis equipped with a 3-yard dump bed. This truck has good tires and a completely reconditioned engine, which would carry a 30-day warranty. We shall be glad to take your GMC truck in trade on the above described unit for a difference of $1,595. Thank you for the opportunity to make a quotation on your requirement and trusting we may be favored with the order. We are very truly yours, Homer C. Cox, sales manager. Now that's dated January 11th, 1960. There's all kinds of stuff like, of course, the interesting thing about Cambria, only had one dump truck. They only had one truck. The chief might want to go through these applications for the one police officer. There's a date on this, what's his police application is May the 12th, 1953. Excuse me. I would like, there's probably some people here, I don't know if it's anybody old enough to remember. Louis Canode, the radio station. Well, here is, I just found this by accident, really. It's dated June the 10th, 1957, to Mayor Cullen Murray in Cambria, and to consider this as an application for a police officer. And that's, I didn't know this till the other day, till I was going through this, that Lewis had applied as a police officer in Cambria. And also, and this is the last thing here, was an application in here, and most of these are handwritten on note paper, was Roy Clark, Buster Clark's son. He passed away here recently. Roy had also applied as a police officer, and he writes down his military time and a lot of information and references and so forth in it. So I think that this is a lot of interesting information. A lot of people, if they want to do the research, can go through this. Everybody here that in the police applications has passed away. So as far as I know, there's no person with that. But this old case is real fragile. It was rubberized. The little black pieces of rubber is coming off. And like I said, I have not gone through this, but it's stuff here from the 40s up into the 50s, and maybe some stuff about time of the merger. So that's all I have. You want me to just leave this here for the?
Yeah, I'll come over and transfer it over to the town manager. Russell, on behalf of Christiansburg and the town council, thank you very much. I know I've got a lot of people that have expressed an interest in researching back some of the events in Cambria in the earlier years. So I'm sure that with these documents, we'll be able to, it should answer a lot of questions that people had back in those days.
Well, I know I'm the only person here old enough to remember Cambria.
No, absolutely not. No, I remember Cambria. Mr. Helms, I'm gonna bring these over and the stamp, and we need to archive those accordingly in the vault. I'll talk to you about those tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Russell, thank you very much.
Okay, appreciate it.
Next on our citizens' hearing is report from Town Hall and Police Department parking. That's Mr. Wingfield and Chief Sisson, is that correct? Or is that Mr. Wingfield? Huh?
I think this is Randy's. but I can
Okay.
chime in if I need to.
All right.
This is the map that's in hope we've got enough copies for everybody also. Yes, basically, it lays out the parking that's used here at Town Hall, and basically I consider the area this direction over is belonging to the police department, and this largely being the Town Hall parking. We generally park a lot of the town vehicles back in this area and maybe in here a little bit. Town employees generally park in these areas or in here. I think we tend to park probably more over here just to kind of serve these for the customers. The handicap parking is indicated in the pinkish color. You've got the green is what basically we're recommending for town employee parking or town vehicle parking. And of course, you still would have the 5 on-street spaces that are limited to half-hour use. There was a list of recommendations in the packet also. And basically, we kind of went through those with the street committee and the Central Business District Committee. And I think they generally like the idea. Also, I guess we're going to talk a little bit about police department parking, and just also give you a couple of numbers. I think these are in your council packet. Basically, I accounted for 50 vehicles here at the town hall, and that includes a couple of interns. So there's I think 3 interns, also includes the mayor's parking.
You consider me an intern?
But that's certainly not.
It's temporary.
Well, brother, I earned my stripes.
If a town employee came and they were all taken, they could park in the garage, is that correct?
Yes, they could.
Are you speaking of county garage?
The county garage, yeah.
Park on top of it.
Okay.
This is what the table indicated, like I say, indicates basically 50 town employees. There's, I think, a total of 72 spaces available. Under what I'm proposing basically is some type of permit parking for the spaces indicated in green. And that would leave 22 spaces to the public. That would include 3 handicap spaces. And that
So what
is,
you're saying, you get a decal or something of that nature?
yes, a decal, or maybe more likely a hanger. We do have a couple of motorcycles, which I think we would just basically take the license numbers for the parking enforcement officer. I think the idea would be the parking enforcement officer would be here maybe a little more particularly on the busy days for court, generally Tuesday and Thursday. But basically it'd be up to him to patrol it, and he would physically have to see somebody get out of the vehicle, leave the town hall parking lot to go to another property.
And Brandy, can you recap why we're looking at this?
There's been, I guess, constant problems with town hall parking as far as vehicle, maybe more vehicles than spaces at times. We do utilize the up-street parking, which is kind of still one of the recommendations, is to still encourage that in employees. Basically, the 7 recommendations the chief and I came up with were add additional signage, which to some degree we've done. Potentially approaching the courthouse about posting a sign over there in regards to parking in town hall parking lot. Adding a prohibitive parking signage to the town hall lot. Also, like I say, encourage employees to find alternative parking, encourage use of mass transit, designate portions of the spaces as either town hall or customer spaces, and encourage the county to proceed with additional parking plans across the street.
I think that's what the issue's been, is courthouse parking. They're using our lot, and our employees and our citizens are having problems with
It is more noticeable on busy court days, and like I say, it's more noticeable in the morning also, I believe.
I was over here today about 1:30, and as I was going back out, there was a large SUV came in, 4 people, and I watched them. I knew what they were going to do. They parked and immediately went to the courthouse, regardless of the signage there. I don't know whether they saw the signage, whether they ignored it or what, but they just came in and parked.
If we have a training here or something like that, it's kind of particularly noticeable also.
There is parking available over behind the courthouse now that's empty, but this is closer to the front door of the courthouse, so that's where people want to park.
If it's raining or it's gonna be.
Doesn't matter whether it's raining or
Well,
not.
well,
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is an issue you all deal with, and I remember a street committee looking, I remember, I think I speak for the street committee and saying, you know, I remember feeling comfortable with, you know, where recommendations as presented. Because if you're leaving 22 open for the public, that ought to be plenty. Maybe, maybe in addition to the signage, maybe color the pavement too. Maybe, you know, maybe.
There may be a time when there's more employees here, in which case we would have to use the central parking also. But of course, that would be allowed.
Well, I could definitely support it, make the signs a little more aggressive and say that towing will be enforced or something like that, rather than just saying no courthouse parking. Plus, I agree with Mr. Showalter that we really need to encourage the county to come up with more parking place and be more proactive in telling people that they need to park in locations other than town hall.
It's not been doomsday, like, you know, this has been talked about since they turned the first shovel of dirt. And we've talked about it. It's not been doomsday, but it obviously is a problem to come down here and see that. We're taking some measures. These are not drastic measures. I think they're a first step in maybe progressive and, you know, progressive, strict.
Barry, I'd like to see us add this to our agenda for the liaison meeting tomorrow morning and reinforce it once again to them. We can do that.
I would think, I don't think we have any signage designating towing enforced. I don't think we have a price for a ticket. And I would encourage, I mean, I don't know what you're looking at, I'm thinking $200.
I think it would be improper parking.
$200, right?
I think it's more like $10.
Yeah, you know, gotta put some teeth behind it.
Well, at least that's a starting place if we're not doing it right now.
I know this was presented to the Central Business District Committee, and Sam was there. And Sam, I'll speak for both of us, and of course you want to add to it, you can, but you know, there was mention of the more signs, and I was in favor of it. I know Barry's not big on signs, and sure we want to try not to put too much up, but I mean, the issue's been, every year we hear about it. And I think there's ample parking over at the courthouse. Maybe during one of their busy trial days, there might be some overflow, but I think it's time that, you know, that we take the matter in our own hands. And like Mike said, you know, we put some good signs up, you know, towing enforced, or, you know, we ticket them, or, and the first I've ever thought about painting the spaces. I never really thought about that, but I tell you, that would stand out a whole lot.
If you're a visitor and you see a sign that, you know, green is for town hall visitor parking, it's just an idea. But the ticket, last ticket I paid was in the town of Blacksburg for a parking meter, and it was $25. That gets your attention. And if someone wants to pay $25 a day to park in a parking lot, I say bring it on.
Well, we have to modify,
$25 a day.
It's
gets your
actually
attention.
35.
well, we have to modify an existing ordinance if we wanted to charge higher
Get your attention.
rates of, for parking tickets in that particular area.
I think so, but I don't.
Yeah, we would have to modify something. I don't know exactly what your current ordinance says, or if you even address it in the ordinance. I don't think you do. town hall parking.
So we would need to look at that in addition, because I think I granted, I do not park there, but I do go to the courthouse, but I'm usually.
Just your fellow peers.
But I mean, it's almost comical the way you see them, the people just walk back and forth. And it's nonstop, it's as if it's non-existent that they even realize there's parking behind or care enough, but of course that is the closest parking to the front door as well, but, unless you're along the street there. But, I think Mr. Barber's right. I mean, I think your biggest, I think the painting is certainly something that calls attention to it, but I think having the biggest deterrent effect would have that mandatory $200 fine or $150 fine during the hours, whatever, however it's noted. But I do think we'd have to modify, or at least, frankly, we'd have to beef up our ordinance to allow us to do that,
We're
Well,
using
we
the
can-
state ordinance right now, our state code right now.
which is why we're relegated to the, what is the fee again? It's
For proper parking, well, it's not $10. I think the maximum is 25.
25, and then if they don't pay it on time, they could be a.
Well, if you're gonna give them a maximum fine of $25 and tow their car, it's gonna cost them $100.
Mhm.
Well,
It'd be hard to tow out of that
even the
lot.
inconvenience if they're gonna go, even to show up for court. Well, if I guess first decision is, should we move ahead with it? I
too.
think this is a very good first step.
I agree.
And then look at it 6 months or a year from now, see how it's doing.
Appreciate the town being proactive, and on this, we have to see the issue, and
It's a good solid
Well, you
plan.
know,
Absolutely.
that's the verbiage we were planning on using on the signs. So, we actually weren't planning on towing that, we were just really planning on ticketing.
I think if you, on the sign, if it's subject to towing,
Yeah.
it doesn't say we're definitely going to, but we
We
can.
could say that.
Mhm.
Okay, let me ask, probably sounds like a dumb question, but I could see someone going to court and they say, take a picture of the sign that says town hall parking only. Does it say town hall on the front of our building?
Yes.
It says Christiansburg Town Hall? Then we should probably make that say Christiansburg Town Hall parking only. Because the courthouse, they are both official buildings, but as long as, it does, if it says Town Hall on the outside and it says Christiansburg Town Hall, then that's what that should
Even
say.
Christiansburg versus Montgomery County separation might be good too.
Mhm.
Well, that way there's no question. If it's buildings labeled and the sign says exactly what the building says.
So,
Right.
you're gonna keep those parking sections, parking spaces right there in the middle, open for,
We'll try to keep them open for the general public. Like I say, I wouldn't say an employee couldn't park there if we had a training event here. But in general, it would be intended to keep it more open for the public.
well, I mean, I know Barry, you hate signs, I understand that. You get these back-to-back signs about every third parking space that says, subject to a $25 ticket, subject to showing, or towing, and that, you gotta put it out in front of them. If they still wanna do it, then.
Well, he's already got signs down there, you just say you just change them to put the proper.
But you know the
verbiage
thing
on it.
about it, and the way they're setting so you can see them coming this way and this way, and nobody pays attention to them. I'm thinking if that sign is stuck right there where somebody's gonna park,
Right.
and they see it, that's as big a eye-opener. I don't mean that we need to, I don't want to sound like we're taking a hardcore approach to this thing, but, right is right.
I tell you, I think a couple of $25 fines, when you get tickets a couple of times, the word will get around very, very quickly. And I know all of us are petrified when we go to Blacksburg and try to find a place to park. And that's because these guys go around there and they ticket you right and left. And everybody knows that. And that, I bet you within 2 or 3 weeks, there'll be no problem at all. Because everybody, the word will be out that they're ticketing.
And the tickets are written via the license plate to whoever the vehicle is registered to, correct? And that's so, because okay.
The problem is gonna be, I'll tell you right now, the problem will be, if someone wants to challenge it, to prove that they were not going to the town.
That's exactly right.
If they went to get a drink of water and then went to the courthouse, I mean.
Any particular, what about can we have a camera?
But that's getting beyond it. I mean, just have a deterrent.
It
and see how it goes for
costs
six-
money to get an attorney to fight it.
We're not gonna solve world hunger with this.
Well, I mean, but there is one way you can somewhat deal with that, is if like they do in other areas, they do it in Johnson City a lot, is that you get it in the mail, And then you have administratively, because we can be for our ordinance, it just says there's an X number of days you have to pay this or file an appeal with the town.
Yeah.
And the amount of people you'll have that file an appeal with the town would be minuscule. Most of them will pay it or else suffer the consequence of having that with the DMV or however we want to deal with that.
Well, if you do an appeal, don't you have to have an appeal committee?
Yeah, but that could be set up through, I'm sure Barry could have one, an appeal committee. Sure, we can just throw that on there.
Every
But-
Wednesday?
But point being though, that if you did that, I mean, aside from that, you're gonna have somebody sitting out there, or you're gonna have a camera out there.
Well,
We currently have that process that you're speaking of.
Yeah.
I mean, they get a summons issued, they get a letter from our ordinance division that says you have this many days to pay this fine. They have an option to appeal any parking ticket in town. It goes through its process, makes a final decision, they have another appeal to me. It's never made it past that. You know, just get them to a point you're in violation, you either pay the fine or you can go to court and talk to the judge about it.
Right.
And let him make the decision.
How many percentage of the ones that go on appeal, Chief?
1%.
Okay, that's how I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question. How many do you approve?
Approved very little. I mean, normally they do not make them to, it normally does not make it to me.
I think-
Try to stay out of the business,
That's,
writing tickets all.
I think we just get the signage up and put the
and I'm
procedure
sorry,
in
Chief, I
place.
know
and-
Virginia Tech's Parking Appeals Committee, I mean, it's very, they take pictures.
if you die,
can
that's
show
not a good
up,
enough
doesn't matter who
reason.
you are, if you're Dr. Sands. Hey, tough, this is what we have, see ya.
Our park enforcement officer is trained to issue the summons, take a photograph, document that. So if there is an appeal, I have that information.
I checked, they have a full-time person, that's all she does.
They have more
Yeah.
than a full-time person.
It's
Yeah,
a
I mean, 'cause
full-fledged
I've had the
business.
pleasure to go up there several times.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and it's $35 over there, folks, I mean, it's.
Well, and just for what it's worth too, I mean, just in the future, and I'll make this very quick, the couple of areas we have in town, Chief, you're aware of them, where there's excessive speeding on some of those streets. And again, we're having some calming measures we're implementing over the next 6 to 12 months to deal with that, and some quicker than this. But I'm just wondering about the utility of having that camera placement, where it automatically, it takes the license plate, and of course, that if you're going above X, you can set it at whatever speed you want it to be set on. It's radar, as long as the radar's calibrated, but probably daily, I would imagine it would stand scrutiny. But they do that again in other areas, and I can't tell you how many times we've been down to a ball tournament, and I don't, but some of the other players, they get a letter in the mail that says you've been cited, and they actually have a picture from the intersection, and it has the license plate real pretty on there. Doesn't matter who was driving, it's registered to you, you're therefore liable under our local ordinance. Boom, and
There's requirements that have to be met for
Mhm.
a red light camera. And there's only one intersection in Christiansburg that meets that, and that's North Franklin and Purvis Ferry. We did research red light cameras years ago, and our research indicated that it causes more accident than it does deterrence. Because of the observation of the drivers often the brakes up, they're in accidents. Virginia Beach had 15 or 20, and they deactivated them. It was causing too much issue, so, yeah, we have done research on that.
do they actually have those areas, do they actually have a sign saying that it's enforced by a camera? At the intersection, or just somewhere else in town, or?
The ones that I have seen have been on the intersection.
Oh, so the ones down there, they don't have them on the intersection, but there's a sign as you come in, different viewpoints or points of entry, and it's not actually, you don't know what intersection it is or whatnot, but they're pretty effective, it seems like. But as far as speed, Chief, can you do that on speed? Is it available on speed?
The camera and the photograph.
Yes, sir.
and the ticket by mail.
Like if it was in a residential area, like a couple of our cut-through areas that are rather dangerous,
No.
nothing like that's
The
available?
intersection of the street would have to meet that standard.
I see.
None of ours meets that standard. So we sent the old county officer there and issued summons that way. So
And that's pursuant to the state standards, state mandates. Is there any way that we have the capacity within the town limits to, if we have an issue, I'm thinking Miller, Allegheny, something like that, or we could utilize a system like that, or do we, under Dillon Road, would we be able to do that?
You know, I can't answer that without looking at
Okay.
the research, yeah.
Okay. I just
I mean,
want-
I think most of the traffic stuff is under state code for
Right.
our officers enforce. But there are some things that you can do, but I would have to look at them.
Okay.
All right, so
Thank you.
I get a general feeling from council that that we want to go ahead and proceed with the recommendations presented by town staff.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Sure.
I would just encourage proper signage and noticeable signage.
In
And,
a,
of
in a
course,
big, in a big
we'll leave it
fine.
to Barry, not too much, and he might consider painting, painting the space.
I don't mind signs that are needed.
Yeah. And you think these are needed? It's-
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We gotta do
My
something.
employees keep telling me they're needed.
I guess
So-
I want to point out, I guess, where we would put the signs. Basically, we're planning on individual pole signs there in the middle for the public spaces, and an individual sign in front of those. Like I say, those two are handicapped, and handicap space there. But, you know, these four in the middle would be double-sided, but have individual poles for those signs too in front of every space. Here, we were planning on just using a general, like here to the corner type signage for these spaces and the ones in this lot. Have a sign here and here and here. And here also, and this is more of just a general town hall only parking sign. And that would be also, that's a double-sided town hall only sign. And that's a double-sided town hall only sign that we plan on installing. We may even put one there possibly. Just, I guess, like I say, give you a good warning. And just point out too, there were some alternatives that we also considered, but of course, you know, they aren't necessarily part of the recommendation. I just want to point out we considered a few other things.
Well, I agree with Barry here. I think signage is nice, but I don't know, you know, I'm sure you'll look at it, Randy, and make sure we don't have signs on top of each other.
It would be nice.
Defeat our purpose.
We'll be nice and start out with the signs, and then we'll see what effect that has on our problem.
I would, and the last thing, we need to move on. If we're going this step, I think when a citizen pulls in the parking lot and sees a bunch of empty spaces there, it's gonna get an attention. If council's taking this step, I would also encourage the town manager to, if we're gonna dedicate those spaces for town employees, and we're gonna dedicate these other ones for that, then they should be avoided by staff. Because it's gonna be a lot more effective when those spaces are just open. And people come in and they say, why are those open? Oh, it's for town hall business, that's me. But I'm just saying, I think it'll be, the whole program will be more effective if we do this, and those spaces that are for visitors are used by visitors, and not, you know, both ways, I think.
Good point.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move along. Were we addressing, did you get the police department parking? Is that next, or is that Mark gonna?
Randy, I'll probably lump that into the take-home vehicle presentation.
Okay, that's later in the agenda, all right. Now, this is time reserved for citizens' comments. Anyone here like to address council on any matter? Ms. Turner?
You should get through my flyer.
You do?
Connie Turner, 101 Allegheny Street. I think I'd already spoken once before on behalf of the CAR group, and that's first what I want to talk about. I believe a letter was sent to our town manager and maybe the mayor from the committee, thanking
It passed
them.
this morning, it passed around here just now. We got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And they just wanted me to publicly say a big thank you to the Public Works Department and our mayor and the town manager for their support for our event in August. I believe the Public Works at least were honored with some donuts being brought by or something as well. So we certainly appreciate this and would like to encourage all of you to come and attend the event. I think that it's still going to go on another year. Every year we keep thinking, you know, whether we are or not, and it is declining in the numbers, so we do need the support, although I believe I maybe had mentioned before, we did get around $2,000 from our silent auction for our scholarship. Then on a second point, I'm glad Allegheny Street and North Street and calming effects and things were brought up a little bit. And I just would like to know what the status is, or to bring this back up, because I was under the impression that after some calibrations and so on and everything were going on, that we would be having the speed humps, lumps, whatever, marker things.
Speed tables is the proper word.
Put down, and they have not been. There have been, I've noticed within the last, I'll say 2 weeks, a couple of times I have noticed a police presence, but they are not there over 15, 20 minutes, and it's not that they are going out with lights on or anything, like I think that they're catching someone. The stop sign is still being run, even as long as it's still been there on Allegheny and Canaan there. And I'm trying to watch my pennies, so my air conditioning hasn't been turned on this year, so my windows are up. And when I'm laying in my bed, which is at the front of my house, it's unreal, the sounds that go by with the traffic and the speed that is sometimes associated with this. And I'm talking late night, early morning, as well as some other times. But it can be broad daylight. The other day, a little white truck just went right on through that stop sign. But I really did think that we were supposed to be having these other things by now, and that the stop signs were to be covered, and I thought we were going to have some resolution to this by this point. This has been something that's been going on for a long, long time. Thank you.
Mr. Turner, we have, according to the town engineer, those speed tables, as they are referred to, are now on order, should be in. There was a procurement issue in the budget, so they should be in within the next couple of weeks, and we will have.
We thought that this was something that had been ordered long time ago.
There, as I said, there was a procurement problem. Matter of fact, we could only find one vendor to bid on them, and the price we had to find some others. I was assured that they are in within the next week or two, and they will be starting to test those on Allegheny Street.
I'll keep you posted.
Okay. So, thank you, Ms. Turner. Anyone else here to address council? Hearing no one, I'll close the citizens' hearing, and we will be up for discussion by mayor and council members. I have a letter requesting that we reappoint a representative to the New River Valley Agency on Aging. Currently, we have Scott Weaver as the primary board member, and up until today, Mr. Hubbard was the alternative. Mr. Hubbard seems to say that he's not old enough to be in this Agency on Aging thing, so he wants to take a break from it. So,
Well said, Mr. Barber.
huh?
Well said.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So, I think tonight I would recommend that we reappoint Mr. Weaver. We will reappoint an alternate after we've had some discussion on possible candidates to do that. So, that's kind of where I am, recommending that we appoint Scott Weaver at this time.
I'll second it.
He suggested.
I'm suggesting it, I can't move anything.
Well, I guess number one, has Mr. Weaver been contacted and he's willing to serve again?
Yeah, he's been contacted.
Okay.
Mr. Weaver, his attendance is remarkable.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, I move that we reappoint Scott Weaver to this
Right, he's there all the time.
agency.
Can't look him in the
I have a
eye.
motion to appoint Mr. Weaver. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the reappointment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Certainly there is no one opposed, so we will reappoint Mr. Weaver and a player to be named later. Council to consider setting the personal property tax relief percentage at 39% as required by the Personal Property Tax Relief Act. Council must set the personal property relief percentage each year. Mr. Helms.
Yes, Mr. Tweedy calculated using the formula the state provides, and came up with 39%. And that's how much relief the state is giving. So the personal property tax will be 39% less than what it actually should be, because the state pays 39%.
So I would make a motion, that Mr. Mayor, that we move to set the personal property tax relief percentage at 39% as requested by, as noted by the town manager.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of, I think we better take a voice vote on this one. This is affecting the bottom line.
Councilman Bishop. Councilman Hall.
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Stipes.
Aye.
Councilman Van Huzer.
Aye.
Yeah, that's 6-0. Thank you very much. Update on the farmer's market status. Mr. Showalter, that was your request, I believe?
I did, I put it on there, just wanted to know what was going on with it. I believe that we exchanged some emails yesterday, and I think when I talked to Barry a few weeks ago, it seems like, and then, of course, talking with some council members, we seem to be all on opposite pages. I know, Mike, you reached out to me yesterday, and of course, I forwarded my email and yours along about our concerns about, you know, I don't think we need to put the cart before the horse and go build something or wait and look to do something grand and something that costs a lot. I think if you guys looked at the link I sent to you yesterday, the first thing we have to establish is a vendor base and a customer base. We're surrounded by pretty nice farmer markets in Salem, Floyd, Blacksburg. So I'd like to see, before we start jumping in and buying property and building buildings or making arrangements to spend several $100,000, I think we can start, close off the street. I think, Mike, you started that, and that's something we can at least see if we can build a vendor base to justify something a little bit more grander before we start putting committees together and things like that. So I guess I wanted to hear what council and administration want to do from here on, and let's all be on the same page.
Well, I know that one of the suggestions had been closing part of Hickok Street and putting something down there. And I really think to do something like that first is a real plus. We need to do it, not just jump into building something or something like that, and I'm not sure we intend to do that. But I'd like to see us go ahead and set up and have Hickok Street as part of that. But I want to work with the merchants downtown to make sure we don't interfere with them. And
have they been contacted in this regard? I know that there's been conversations, but has they been contacted and expressed any reluctance to allow that Hickok portion to be closed?
Talked to them directly about Hickok Street.
We've had some alternate sites that we thought were going to pan out that didn't, so that we kind of filtered back to the drawing board, and now we're ready to. I foresee that there's nothing we'll do as far as trying to open a farmer's market now. It's too late in the season, but it would give us 3 or 4 months to start developing a plan and start determining a policy and what we're going to allow, what we're not going to allow. So I shared an email with. No, you sent me the email, and I shared it with a couple of staff members today, just for a review, and I haven't had a chance to talk back to them. But I would like to appoint a small committee involving the downtown merchants, the central business obviously would be involved in it, and I know that we have a lady that lives here in town, just lives up in the park, that has been very instrumental in opening 4 or 5 farmers markets, not only in this area but across the country. And she met with or spoke with Randy and Billy Aldridge about an interest in working with us on this thing. So I'd like to go ahead and appoint a committee. I'll get some names together in my mind and run them by council to make sure that, yes, sir?
Well, after you're through.
Okay. To make sure that I don't want to overburden it with 45 people on the committee. but I don't want to understaff it to where it seems like it's just our decision and nobody had any input. I think the input of the vendors and possible vendors is very important. So by our next meeting, but prior to that, I will be in contact by email with you all with my recommendations, or if you have anyone that you would like to consider, if you'll send it to me so I can at least start getting the pool together, and I'll have that for you next meeting.
I think that's a great idea. And, you know, my response was, and I've told council in October, I want to bring to you the idea of expanding the central business district. And in my email yesterday, I thought that could be an advisory task that they could take on, because I think we all want the farmers market downtown, and I think it was a good idea to expand the central business district from Sam and I, or just council, when actually you have building owners downtown and vendors downtown, or people renting those businesses. I think they should be in charge of, with a few council people on there. But instead of jumping into a farmer's market advisory board, maybe since we're putting this off a little bit, I still think that we can still establish a vendor and customer base by a town-run farmer's market downtown, just to get some numbers, at least in 2015, from spring until September. That would be my opinion, instead of jumping in and bringing people in and then we find out, you know, it's really not needed, or if it's needed, it's very small, and we've got this committee of 8 or 9 individuals that we're paying to come in and make decisions for something that 3 or 4 vendors might need to just shut down the street every Saturday for 4 hours, and that's it.
We had talked about the feasibility of having it a couple of days, maybe a Thursday and Saturday. But anyway, that's some of the things. I know that Billy Aldridge has been quite active in looking into this farmer's market, and I'd certainly like to have him as a part of that committee. I will get back to you all, I promise, within the next few days. If you have a name, and I'm going to maybe talk to the lady here in town that's got that type of expertise. Henry sent a very good link to a setting policies and setting rules and regulation. There's certain things that we want to make sure that we do correctly in this thing. So I will be back, if not prior to, I'll be back to you formally at council meeting in 2 weeks.
Well, I have one question about that, and I agree with each of you that there's no reason to run before we walk. I agree with that. Same respect, though, a lot of those local farmers markets around the area have been built through zero matching dollars through federal grants, some of them. Are we still monitoring the grants to see when that cycle is going to come back around, either through the FDA or through I forgot the other acronym, but there's 2 in particular that used to be the non-matching $75,000 grant. Chowgalax got theirs built. But are we still monitoring those grants?
Sure, that one's open year-round for application.
Well, I checked it before. It wasn't.
Once or twice a year, but you.
Well, the one they have is X millions of dollars set aside, and then of course you had to. The biggest issue was locating the property first, which you had to have, and you couldn't use the money to buy the property, but you could use it for everything else. That's my understanding. But I noticed there was a time frame it was closed off, but that last time I had seen it closed down was, I want to say it was late 2012, maybe it was late 2013, early 2013, and usually it's something that was about a 24-month cycle, if there's money. And that's a big if, of course, this day and age. But I know we were looking at monitoring it because there's grants for the building. There's also grants for the SNAP program. There's a lot of different grants for the electronics that go into that too. So that way every individual has opportunity to utilize and acquire the local produce. So that's just something I like for us to keep on the burner as well, is just to monitor, because when it does come up, usually it's open for about a 6 to 8 month period, and I like for us to be at least proactive if we can. It's free money. So.
You know, I think Ken has a good idea about not putting a lot of money into this right now. I'm not sure, we do have a semblance of a farmer's market here in town, over at Corinne's, over at Laddie, and I would encourage people on the council just to stop by there. He does it every Saturday morning. he has 4 to 5 vendors every Saturday morning. And just to talk to the guy and hear some things, because having a farmer's market is not that easy, really. And if you think about even putting it on Hickok Street, in July and usually in August, it gets pretty hot. Now, like Laddie has a place for these people to go in, a protected shelter right there. It's very tough to have people just to sit out there like that. You need to maybe get restrooms. To get the vendors to come in, it is not that easy. You need somebody who's willing to get on the phone and get after these people. You're not gonna say, hey, we got a farmer's market here, and people are just gonna be running down there. So that's what I would encourage, for all of us to do a little homework on this too, and look at that this is not just a piece of cake. This is something that's gonna take a little dedication, and probably no matter how we do it, a little bit of money.
Well, I agree with your comment, and I think that's what Henry's saying. We've got to do some kind of work to decide, are the vendors available? And if they are, do we have the customers available to there? And I think the vendors is going to be the big question, and whomever is appointed to any kind of committee or whatever it is, one of the first things they need to do is see if there's going to be vendors out there available to service it.
And you know, a big thing is too, I have not gone down there, but they have that guy with the truck that used to be over there by Mertens. Now I think he's over there by a stockyard.
Now, he's out of business, he's saying, it's a different, he's out of business.
We had someone
The stockyard
recently,
guy,
Joe's out
he's
over at
now.
Gates Florist, that's really been selling the corn
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. No, the guy that was out on 114 is out of business
Okay,
now.
but there's another guy over there by the,
Oh, yeah, they're interested, they would be very interested in coming to
Well,
a
we
farmer's
need to talk
market.
to
Yeah,
him
we've
too,
already
whether
talked
he'd
to
move or
them.
not, you know?
They've been approached informally.
Okay.
I asked him about it, he's like, I've already heard about it, yeah, I'm ready to go. So, there you go. And there's two vendors that set up down there, small
I
ones.
think they do quite well.
I think they do too. Okay, so I will, I'll get the guts of a committee together, and we will contact, I'll be in touch with you. Mr. Weaver?
Yes, sir.
We certainly appreciate your service on the Agency on Aging.
It's a pleasure. I hate to tell you, but I've been pretty well keeping up with you all for the last 10 years. Don't fight like we used to. So, I think we're doing all right. Congratulations to all of you. I think the town is in better shape than it has been in years.
We appreciate
No
that.
problem. And I appreciate the fact that you all talk to each other and don't get in the fuss and raise Cain like we used to. We learn sometimes the hard way.
We do that.
I'm very appreciative of the fact that I've served with the Agency on Aging for, oh Lordy, about 45, 46 years.
I've only been alive for 37.
I realized all of a sudden I was one of them. So I worked with them, and I do appreciate, and I appreciate the fact that I could be reappointed for another couple of years. And I hope I'll be able to serve them, because it is a worthwhile organization.
Absolutely.
And I think we do a remarkable job. A food program where we deliver meals, I think is one of the most important things that we do. Not necessarily take the food to the person who opens the door, but the fact that that person came to the door and opened
right.
it, we know then that they were all right. So it's a twofold purpose. And,
How many do y'all serve, Mr. Weaver? You aware of how many meals you all are serving and food you're bringing?
well, I don't know.
It's a pretty
Quite a few.
substantial amount, it's my understanding. Yes, sir.
I've been with them for about, about 42 years. I've enjoyed every bit of it. And not quite as much as I enjoyed council, but it's a little different operation. I'm proud of you all. I appreciate the work you do. And if I can be of any help later on, please give me a call. All except the mayor.
Appreciate that, man. See, we've already voted to appoint you, Scott. I can't do anything now.
Thank you for the point. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Scott, before you came in, the council complimented you on how you have been so religious on year after year of doing this and meeting after meeting, and the council really appreciates the work that you're doing and what how you're showing for Christiansburg. And I know the people on agency really think so much of you and what you do for them.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. I tried. When I got out of service, my wife was a first grade teacher out around her. She had a couple of kids that always wanted the front row, and a couple of boys, and you don't usually want the front row, they want the back row. But they found out they couldn't see. So they got the operation, got them eyeglasses, and they could see. So when I came out of service, I wanted to join an organization that would do these things and work for the people. And I'm on the planning commission, Agency on Aging, Lions Club, the few organizations. I stay busy, but I enjoy every minute of it, and I look forward for another year or two.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you all, so don't stop.
Well, one moment, Mr. Weaver, and he mentioned it, and Brad mentioned it before, and I should have, when we were voting you back on the Agency on Aging. Mr. Weaver's part of the New River Valley Planning District Commission. He represents the town. He's also the treasurer of that commission. And that commission involves towns, every town that's near us, and county. It's a very large commission, does a lot for our region. And he plays a pivotal role in that. And I'm lucky enough to serve on there with him, and we're just lucky to have him still part of the town. And I don't believe that you, of anybody, would be in here yelling and screaming. Now, Mike, I could believe it, but when you were on council, but your services.
I appreciate you being on the board for the planning commission. I wish one of you were on the board with the Agency on Aging, but that would be festive.
Well, we may remedy that too. We may appoint another one to come in and sit down with you, not in place of you. We can't replace you.
He's been on the PDC since it was formed in '68.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all what you're doing.
Thank you,
I
Scott.
appreciate the fact that you're talking to each other and you're working things out. That was one of our problems several years back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate it. Okay. Next on the discussion by mayor and council members, discussion of out-of-town employee take-home vehicle policy. I've got Chief Sisson here for that. Mr. Gordon, welcome. Now hold it down over. We're in the meeting. Have it changed there.
Except for the next spring.
Oh, yeah, I don't have it.
We make sure they know that if it don't work out, if we create a business district.
Other things.
I mean, they'd be good to pull over to that. You're volunteering for that.
Yeah.
While he's looking for that, there was information in the agenda, is that correct? Okay. We'll talk about that, I don't want to belabor the conversation, but I was asked to come to discuss take-home vehicles, and I know take-home vehicles has always been an issue. It's been an issue that I've heard from community members, and I know the council members have as well. So I just want to come before you this evening and talk a little bit about that and answer any questions that you may have about the take-home vehicle process. This discussion came up early in 2012. Some council members and I discussed that. Mr. Helms was involved in this discussion. At that point, we decided to develop a municipal policy that controlled the take-home vehicle program. Not to eliminate it, but to control its growth. So you have the memorandum that was drafted by Mr. Helms and dated August the 30th, 2012. Just some clarification points in that memorandum. The things that we've done in that process is, number one, we said, if you live outside of Montgomery County, you are grandfathered at this time to take a vehicle home if you are authorized to do so by your physician. We put some stipulations in that. Number one, if you move further away from that location, you will lose that vehicle automatically. Other stipulations in that program is if you individuals get appointed to positions from that date effective forward, they would lose the opportunity to have a take-home vehicle, even if it was a position that we would normally grant a take-home vehicle if they did not live in Montgomery County. So our objective was to try to develop the program to control vehicles going outside of Montgomery County. I firmly believe that this has worked. Through attrition, we have went from 12 take-home vehicles outside the town, or outside of Montgomery County, to 10, and in October, we will have 9. You still can't find it?
Quick search.
You know what the file name is?
Mm.
File name?
That should have been take-home vehicle, PowerPoint.
Well, while we're looking, maybe I can ask a question?
Sure.
So we have 10 right now, okay? And these people have a special need to have their vehicle at home.
That's correct.
And that would be, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure I can. There's an Excel spreadsheet in there that's colored that will give you the take-home vehicles.
Yeah, I saw that.
If you will refer to that, okay, here we go. So, now that it's here, you will see that we have 17 vehicles that are take-home vehicles inside the town of Christiansburg. So those are vehicles that they take home, they're in our neighborhoods, and I know we've discussed that, and most council members really like those vehicles in the neighborhoods. It's a great deterrent. In brown, you will see that we have 9 vehicles. Those vehicles are vehicles that are going outside into Montgomery County. The 10 vehicles that we're speaking of are the bottom, the green and the brown. The ones in green are emergency response team TAC members. The ones that are not in green, the remainder 6, are not tactical members. These are individuals that when we created a policy in 2012, those are the individuals that were grandfathered in. Just to speak in perspective of the emergency response team, since we developed the policy, I've added 3 new members to the emergency response team. With the policy that was drafted by Mr. Helms, those 3 individuals came on to the emergency response team, but they did not live in Montgomery County, so they were not issued a take-home vehicle. So that's the controls that we built into the policy in 2012. They're not listed on here. They're TAC team members, but they live outside of Montgomery, and it was after the effective date, so they do not receive a vehicle. So that when I speak that through attrition, we're losing some, and as we move forward, we're not adding additional that are outside of Christiansburg or Montgomery. Yes, sir.
You added 3. Is there any reason, because we do have a lot of officers living within town, is there any reason we didn't add officers currently living within town to the emergency TAC team?
Yeah, the emergency response team, it's a process. I mean, they have to meet a certain standard, range qualification, physical fitness. Trust me, if they were town members and I could put them there, that would have been a great factor for me, because I would have known I'm not going to have that issue from them coming this far. But unfortunately, the 3 that made it the last time, 2 of them live in Floyd County, but they were my best candidates for positions, so it's tough.
It's also whether they want to do it, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they train 4 days or 4 times a month, and they're on call 24/7. There's very few people that want to do that.
And this is a shooting, a big robbery,
Well, I thought that question may come up, so I'll just put together, well, retrieve some information from our TAC team commander, just to get an idea of how many call-outs they have a year. In the last 12 months, our tactical team has been called out 13 times. So more than one a month, our TAC team responds. They're called out for search warrants. In this situation, we had 8 search warrants. We had a barricaded subject that we had to call them out for, and 2 K-9 tracks. So that's, they're called out for multiple things. I mean, obviously, the barricade suspect is a pretty volatile situation. The search warrants could be. We do have time for planning in those. But they're, any critical incident that our road officers cannot handle, our emergency response team will be deployed to that scene.
Chief, the 13 you said you had over the 12 months, the one that was, let's say not the search warrants, taking those out of it. Were all those within the town of Christiansburg?
That's not in the report that he sent me, but I do know that there are occasions when our emergency response team is dispatched to help Virginia Tech, Blacksburg, or Montgomery County. Okay. And in respect, if we need their assistance, we utilize their.
We have those mutual aid agreements and all, and pursuant to that. So, how difficult would it be to find out where those incidents occurred, Chief?
Not difficult.
Chief, on the what I don't have very good eyes. The bottom right side there's a figure under the cost per month, and my sheet says $97.48, I believe.
Yes, it does.
And that was for instance a police interceptor going to Floyd. The 16.178 mile distance, that would be one-way day. That's not round trip, obviously.
That's one way.
And where does the cost per month? I guess how does that figure in, or how do we arrive at $97.48?
Well, cost per month. Basically, what we have done is we've taken average annual maintenance, which the annual maintenance is it's tough to determine whether it's a take-home car. You may lose a radiator on a take-home car. It may be an in-town car, you lose it. But we do have a factor for that. We also have a factor of the miles driven per month by that officer from the town limits to his residence and back on the days that he's working. We calculate that by the miles per gallon that individual vehicle gets, and we times that by the cost of gasoline that month. So what I produced, I didn't go through every vehicle. I just wanted you guys to have a benchmark to show what it's costing to take the vehicles out of town. You'll see the mileage. I've given you mileage of the vehicles that are going out of town. The one thing that we try to do as vehicles start to get higher in age, we try to assign those to members that are on the TAC team or are driving vehicles further. You see vehicles in that group, 123,000, 115, 105, 116. These vehicles are going to be with us another year or two, and they're going to be gone. So we try to give them vehicles that have higher mileage. You will see 2 vehicles that have 9,000 and 19,000. You probably noticed the new Ford SUV Interceptors that we put on the street. I will say they're very economical. They're 6 miles to the gallon, better than any vehicle we've got. They're all-wheel drive. There's a lot of room in those vehicles. They were issued to our lieutenants. 2 of our lieutenants do not live in the town of Christiansburg. So that's the mileage that's reflected in those 2.
And that 16.78 figure, Chief, is that from the to the residence of the individual, or is that from the town limits to their residence? Or?
That's from the town hall parking lot to their residence.
To their residence.
Just one clarification, there are also 4 other vehicles that are taken home that don't belong to the police department. The fire chief, the rescue squad chief, the radio technician, and
Public Works.
Public Works, they rotate the Public Works foreman that's on call. So that one can be in town, it could be out of town, or it doesn't go out of the county.
I'm glad Barry brought that up, because usually it's due to the number of police officers that are taking the vehicles outside of town, that's who takes it on the chin. But years ago, when I first became a councilman in 2009, I became aware, and this is what brought it to my attention. It didn't have anything to do with and I appreciate Chief Sisson coming here representing the town, because that's what he's here pretty much representing, not just the police department. But we had a 3/4 ton truck going to Galax every day, a town truck, to Galax and back every day. 5-day work week. If they were on call, they came in on the weekend, and I thought that was a little extreme. Typically, when we start talking budget issues, or we're getting very close to our reserve threshold, that's when my interest peaks, and I try to review and see what we can do to be more economical as a town. And I'm glad Barry mentioned that, because it's more than the police officers that are leaving, it's also public works, and even if we hire somebody that lives out of town, they could, I don't know, per the policy, they can't do that anymore though, right? We have
Out
some,
of county, they can't.
if they're outside the county, okay.
But there's just 4 now, other than the police vehicles.
Chief, just going back to that one, since we had the figure for that cost per month, is that my understanding? An officer would work generally 5 days a week? Is that?
The patrol officers normally work 14 days a month.
Okay.
Because they work 12-hour shifts, so we calculate it based on 14 days a month.
Okay.
And Chief, you say that's an approximate fuel cost?
That is an accurate fuel cost.
That's an accurate fuel
Approximate-
cost.
Well, it's an accurate fuel cost down to the mileage. We keep track of every mile, how much we're paying for gas, and I'll give you a spreadsheet for every time we're spending on gas.
I don't need that. It's a lot of times you can look at it. I mean, this is good that we have the fuel cost, but you look at it, the additional miles, increased maintenance. You can look at it as an asset point of view, decreased, because of course a vehicle, the more miles it has, the less value it is, and we do keep track of assets as a town, but I just wanted to make sure that that's a fuel cost.
Yeah, the maintenance cost is built into that number as well. But again, that maintenance cost is the number that's, has some variable.
So this is
Okay,
actual
I
mileage
understand.
cost, and everything is estimate based on averages or something like that?
I'm sorry,
I see. It includes the actual fuel cost,
correct.
but then the other costs included in that $97 are based on the averages
For the entire fleet.
for the entire
That
fleet.
specific-
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Chief, I see we looked at, we've kind of beaten up on Pulaski, Dublin, Giles, and Floyd, but just because of the mileages are there. But how difficult is it for us to have the mileage for Montgomery County as well?
That's very easy.
That's something we might be able to get in a couple of weeks of that. If you have time for that, and
Absolutely, I can tell you by heart just about now, but I don't want to make a mistake, so I'll wait.
You know, I want to just say that I think we owe Henry something for this, because Henry really has pushed this thing. We all have said, something needs to be done. Everybody's been saying something needs to be done. And Henry has gone after this and been pushing and pushing to do it. And I really do, Henry. I think everybody in council appreciates what you've done. And Chief, I think we appreciate you working with the program and trying to, realize what we were looking for and working with us. And I think it's been a good sign for everybody working together. And this is something that needs to be done, and gas prices aren't going to go down.
My request to council in this respect is simply that we continue to follow the policy that was drafted in 2012, and that we continue to decrease the out-of-town vehicles through attrition. That would be my request. I believe that the current policy is working. I'm following that current policy. I know other department heads are as well. The vehicles that I have leaving Montgomery County, in my opinion, are, it's efficient use of our resources. I believe that it's critical to our operations. And if I didn't feel that, I wouldn't allow them to go outside of Montgomery County.
Chief, I just wondered on the bottom 6, that would be non-tactical.
Correct.
So this would be that starts with it starts with a detective and ends with vice.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Floyd, Dublin, Giles, if it's non-tactical, what is the benefit derived by the town by them being on a non-tactical team but still going out that far?
Do you want me to go through each one of those specifically?
It's in general. I mean, I understand when you mentioned tactical team, that that there's with the mutual aid, the way we work in that respect. But as far as non-tactical, because that's a question that I get a lot. Not a lot, I get it sometimes. But it's that, obviously they see the vehicles going out of town. And most of the responses that I would give would be, well, that's part of our mutual aid agreements we have with our surrounding localities. And they would therefore, in turn, would benefit us in that same capacity. But if it's a non-tactical base where they would not be an emergency responder, so to speak, is there a benefit, or is it more just this is the policy and we're waiting for this policy for attrition to take over and just not taking away a benefit that was previously granted? I mean, how do you view that, or how should that be viewed?
Well, there's certain ones in there that meet some of that criteria, and there's other ones that meet other. And I'd like to go through those, specifically the drug task force vehicle. The drug task force unit, that member is assigned to the Virginia State Police Drug Task Force, and they work from Craig County to Bradford, Floyd to Giles. Their take-home vehicle is essential to their operation. Detective David Moiser, evidence technician, every crime scene, his vehicle is equipped with all of our crime scene equipment, and he leaves his residence and comes straight to the scene. And I'm going to give you an estimation on call-outs, but I'm going to say it's between 10 and 20 a year on evidence technician call-outs. Lieutenant Weddle, patrol lieutenants, the patrol lieutenant and patrol sergeant have take-home vehicles due to emergency callback. I'll give you that statement. Vice is the same thing as task force, but instead of being assigned to the state drug task force, they are assigned to the town of Christiansburg.
So Chief, then on the 031, that's the Tahoe, going to Dublin, there's be a call of 10 to 20 calls per year, and that would be where calls where they would be going directly from their home to a site or to a location. Is that correct?
Correct.
Any other times they would be dispatched, I guess, from the actual police department to that location?
During the daytime, yes. And in the evidence.
Did you turn that
evidence,
light
well,
on? Are we done with the screen? Let's turn the light
I
on.
think we're done with the screen.
All I can see is a shadow of Chief's
Well, we
face.
had the parking,
Yeah,
the one
it's-
parking thing I would
Okay.
like to show you. The
All right,
parking.
fine, I'm sorry.
The evidence issue, we do have some pretty strong mutual aid agreements with surrounding agencies, large crime scenes. Each agency has normally one evidence technician, so if there's a crime scene, a larger crime scene anywhere in Southwest Virginia, we have those agreements where we assist one another, and we do that quite often. I know you probably have other questions, and I'll definitely field those, but I just want to talk to you briefly about the parking situation that we do have at the police department. I don't complain about many things because I'm grateful for what we have, and I'm not complaining about parking at all. I think it's important for council members to understand kind of where we're at in a parking perspective. We'll start up in the blue, which says fleet, our fleet vehicles, which are operated during the day by one shift, at night by another shift. All of those are designated for fleet parking. The top row, which I'm even having trouble reading that. Look at my lip.
Would you like to borrow my glasses?
I think that's blurry.
Yeah. I think it's just.
Green's this time.
You
You have a handout, correct?
right?
Yeah.
We have it. And the key.
Okay. I'm having trouble seeing that as well.
Let's turn the light on so you can see it better.
You guys have that handout, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay. If you'll notice, every spot that we have afforded to our organization is taken. I have not one available space. If you will notice on the left side here, that is not actually approved appropriate parking. Mr. Helms, I'm correct, that's a right-of-way easement,
It's an ingress and egress easement.
but not our property, correct?
Correct.
So I believe that belongs to Wachovia Bank. We currently utilize that spot just by the good graces of the relationship we've built with Wells Fargo, which could go away at any time. So as we have patrol officers coming in for their shift, that's where they park. There's nowhere in our lot that they can park. That's the one issue when we talk about bringing take-home vehicles and bringing them back to the agency. If I bring back 5, I have to have 10 spaces, because I have to have 5 for that vehicle, and I have to have 5 for those officers coming back in their personal vehicle. I did ask Randy if I could have the permanent parking spaces up there, and I can make a lot of things work, but he was he wasn't real receptive to that. Which I know that the town probably needs it more than I do with the parking issues they have, so. Our parking has put us in a position where it's confined us. If we grow more, which, you know, I don't anticipate we're gonna grow that much in the next 10 years, but I don't have additional spaces. And we have talked about, and I've talked to Mr. Helms and Mr. Wingfield about maybe an additional parking lot off of our existing parking lot, and I think maybe we looked at some numbers financially of what that would cost us. That's outside my scope, but I think the engineer department had some numbers on that. So I wanted you guys to kind of understand the parking issues that I was having at the police department. And if we're talking about take-home vehicles and bringing some of those back, I will have some issues with parking. But at the end of the day, I respect you guys, I respect your opinion. I know it's difficult, because people ask you every day what cars are going out of town of Christiansburg, and I understand that. So, again, I would say I would hope that we would stay with our current policy, but I would respect the decisions that you make.
I just got a quick question. Now, Chief, of course, I serve on the Planning District Commission, so I'm lucky to have other municipalities, and, you know, and council trusts you and I trust you when you say that it's recommended and it's in order to complete your mission, safeguard the residents of Christiansburg, and we help Montgomery County out a lot too. How can other municipalities like Blacksburg, and of course I haven't checked with them, how can they, in Blacksburg I've heard that they won't even let a patrol officer or sergeant drive their vehicle anymore to Christiansburg, who reside in Christiansburg, because we all know who can afford to live in Blacksburg anymore. But, how can their mission critical be, it's okay to do something like that, but we can't?
I'm not familiar with Blacksburg policy, other than I know they made some recent changes. Sam may be able to speak to that, but I know, there's a Blacksburg officer that lives in Pilot that I pass him every day, so I think they've made some changes there, but I can't speak to specifically how their operation works. And I'd be happy to research that and maybe make some comparisons and see some of the things that they're doing.
Okay.
All right, during my time frame, because it's been 7 years since I've been there, Blacksburg was in the process of cutting back on the number of vehicles taken home. You know, because it used to be like certain sergeants, admin, people type could take them home, but then they start cutting back. You have to be a certain rank or above with a certain mission to take them home. Once again, like your ERT members, they are allowed to take for the same reason that, you know, if you get a call out, you want those officers to be able to get there as fast as possible. The evidence tech, he used to live in Salem, he could take kids, because once again, you want to get direct to the scene as fast as possible. But, you know, I cannot answer to what they have done over the last 7 years. I can find out if you wish me to do so.
Back during the budget process, I did talk to someone with the Blacksburg PD about that, and they have 12 to 15 take-home vehicles. They have 0 officers that live in jurisdiction now. 0, not one,
right.
not too few, but they have 0. They have 0 officers live in jurisdiction, and they have 12 to 15 take-home vehicles, and they're based on mission, as you say. It might be ranked 2, but that's the number that was told to me. And it, you know, it varies between 12 and 15 that leave jurisdiction to go home.
I'd like to see the chief follow through and get some information from some neighbors and see what they're doing, and maybe even question how they come up with the rationale for what they do.
Would you like that information via email through Mr. Helms to council, or how would you prefer that happen?
That would be fine.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That would be fine.
We'll put it in the next packet, or the following packet too.
Thank you. Yeah.
Whenever.
Chief, I do appreciate your candid answers and all. That's why I asked you a couple of those questions, because those are the things that generally are asked of me. If someone has a question, then, and another, I tell you, well, let me ask you one more question. Why this is something else that comes up, and I have some people, Floyd officers, who I think very highly of that work for the town of Christiansburg. But in relation to that, though, of the tactical members, there's 4 of them from Floyd. The other question that comes up is if they are TAC members, and you've placed them 20 to 25 miles away from center of town, are they in the best, I guess, logistical, place, if you will, to be able to respond in an efficient manner? Do we have any issues with that? I imagine we don't, or you wouldn't have them on tap team, but.
I think Mr. Sherwalter asked that earlier, part of that. Realistically, the best thing for me, my best qualified ERT members live in Christiansburg, which makes our response much more effective.
Sure.
Obviously, you're taking a risk. I mean, you're bringing people from out of jurisdiction, but those are the individuals that are trained and can pass and can handle that responsibility. And I do account for that when I go through the promotion process or the lateral transfer into that division. Where do you live? I mean, it's going to take you 10 minutes to get to the scene, or it's going to take you 30. So I do take that into consideration in my overall decision.
So what you're saying, Chief Sisson, Floyd County boys are in better shape than our Montgomery County boys, huh?
I have had good luck with Floyd County.
You got a PT program for our boys out?
And I'm glad he made that point. I didn't realize that based on qualification and, of course, volunteer of the officer, whether they want to participate in it, that's a big deal. I mean, but you don't want to get to a point, and that was my biggest concern coming in here with staff thinking that I want to control that people, you have to live in Christiansburg in order to work for the town, and we don't want to do that. This is a commuter issue. I think it's something, and that's why I wanted Barry to put it on the agenda, and I appreciate Mark coming in. Again, Mark takes it on the chin because I originally started this out with a public works vehicle, asking about it. I believe we have a new policy, which we didn't have before, 2012. I believe Barry and Steve thanks me, but it's really, when I first talked about this in 2008, our town manager pretty much looked through me like I wasn't there, okay? And then when I mentioned it to Barry and Mark, it's not me, it's them who took the heat, put a policy out there. Council wasn't involved in it. They took the initiative. They saw the savings in it. So I appreciate everything Mike said, but it was these two individuals and town staff and leadership who made the policy. And this policy does, as Barry always says, have some teeth in it. And and Mark had mentioned a few months ago that through attrition, they are reducing it, because I even see the one in October is the Woodlawn vehicle, right? Or
The Woodlawn vehicle that was in question, Mr. Helms and I had a conversation that next day, and that vehicle was parked, and we didn't allow it to go back anymore. We just made a command decision that was just absolutely too far. The one moving in October is moving from Floyd to Christiansburg, so, and he's an ERT member.
I saw
That's
that.
a good thing.
I'll make one brief statement. This is directed at Chief Sisson, but it's also directed at Ms. Tweedy and Mr. Helms. I think my role as a council member is to pay attention to areas that I think you need to pay attention to, more than, because we can't pay attention to everything all the time. That's not possible. But I will say with Mr. Helms and Ms. Tweedy and Mr. Sisson, whatever they come in and tell me, I take with a very high degree of confidence that it's the truth, and it's, they run tight ships, or they are very responsible individuals. And so, yes, when information is presented, if it's compelling and we have, consensus on it, great. But I do, having been on council before, the chief was taking place and seeing and hearing things before and now. I mean, it's running the police department and the people that report to us are doing an outstanding job, and I tend to, the tide goes to the runner, so to speak, if there's close things. But these three individuals in particular, I think we can count on, straight talk, and that means a lot to me when we make decisions about how their operations are being run. Anyway, I just want to say that I do appreciate showing up, but more than that, I appreciate the candor that you have with us and straight shooting talk.
Mayor Barber, do you think I could ask Chief Sisson a couple of quick questions?
No, sir. We're done.
On the thing?
We're done. We beat this thing to death.
No, I'm going
The
in.
horse is in a coma. I think we can move on. We've got a couple of things we have to, if you'd like to ask him a couple of questions, I'm sure you can talk to him later.
Okay.
Under We have number 5 on this agenda, which is the council's, and we have moved this down, council's intention to adopt an ordinance vacating a 15-foot wide, 85-foot long public utility and drainage easement interior to the rear property line at 750 George Edward Vi, tax parcel 495-8-13.
I'd make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we adopt an ordinance vacating the 15-foot wide, 85-foot long public utility drainage easement located at that 750 George Edward Vi, as listed on the, this evening on the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, since we're giving away property, let's poll.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. Please.
Sir. Councilman Bishop.
Aye.
Councilman Hall.
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Stipes.
Aye.
Councilman Van Hoosier.
Aye.
That would be 6-0. Second part is the council's intention to adopt an ordinance in regards to the disposition of approximately 0.02 acres of town property located in the Diamond Hills Park adjoining 750 George Edward Vi, tax parcel 495-2-A. Now, I was we were gonna give it away, right?
Well, before we,
How are we
That's
gonna?
not my recommendation.
that's what his
You're gonna sell
recommendation,
it.
yeah. He's gonna say.
My recommendation is to sell that strip for the value of the parkland, and this strip would be worth $207 based on the value of the parkland, and the landowner has agreed
To pay that amount?
to pay that amount. If so,
Okay.
he doesn't feel it's proper for us to just give it to him.
Well, I'd make
Thinks
him.
he should pay some.
I'd make a motion in that respect then that the council adopt an ordinance in regards to the disposition of approximately .02 acres of town property located in Diamond Hills Park adjoining 750 George Edward Vi, and specifically in the amount of a sale of real property in the amount of $207.00.
I'll second that.
Have a motion to second. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop.
Aye.
Councilman Hall.
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Stipes.
Aye.
Councilman Van Hoosier.
Aye.
Mr. Helms, by us taking action on that, the resident at 750 George Edward Vi no longer has an issue or any worry about that property, correct?
Because he'll own,
Provided they purchase that $207 worth of .202 acres, no other issues that he has at this point?
do a subdivision plat, which will come to you in the next couple of meetings.
Yes, sir.
But
But his concerns and worries are now will be relieved. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Very good. Council reports. Councilman Bishop.
In a couple of weeks, the Christopher Rescue Squad will be hosting a blood drive for the Virginia Blood Fund.
At they'll have,
At the rescue squad.
at the squad?
Rescue, yes.
Okay. Very good. Keep us posted on those dates, would you please, sir? Councilman Hall?
Very briefly, the meeting the other evening at the Recreation Center, I was not able to attend. I spoke with Mr. Epperly beforehand on a number of occasions via text, but I was stuck in Whitfield and then Floyd on some matters. But they discussed, and I sent my notes into him about my thoughts on the lease for the Kiwanis Club. That was discussed for the second time, and he actually called me this evening. I'll talk with him after the meeting, and by the next meeting of council, or actually the next packet, or however councilors would like me to have it done, I'll make sure that I'll send you an email that'll make you aware of what any issues or any perhaps terms or any differences that the Recreation Commission would like to see present as a modification to the existing lease as proposed. Other than that, nothing additional to report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Hoosier?
Well, I was not able to make the Rec Advisory Board meeting last Wednesday, but they are working.
Aquatic?
Aquatic, what did I say? The aquatic advisory board meeting, but they are working toward making a presentation to council at our next meeting.
Okay. Mr. Stipes?
I didn't have anything planned, but I just want to ask maybe a question. we got the new town, the seal that matches this up here
Mhm.
now. Is this our new town seal?
It is.
I thought we were just deciding on what that was gonna
We
look like.
changed the color logo.
Was there a committee to do that? Okay. I said, I'd like to see us, if we're gonna change, I like the colors in it. If that's, maybe I'm the only one.
I
that
had
feels that
polled a
way.
couple of council members and I did not get a, let's don't do it. So that's where we are. Anything else?
I'd like to talk more about that, so, yeah, I'd like to bring that up again and see if there's anyone else that feels that we should discuss more to change the whole town seal.
Okay. Showalter? You good?
I'm good.
Mr. Hubbard?
If you look on your desk, I left a little thing about the Old Pros Band. And this is a way that the Montgomery Museum is trying to generate revenue. And it was, last year, it was just a very big success. And it's over there at Smithfield. And if you can do it, that would be great. And I think you'd enjoy it. The second thing I have to say is, next Wednesday, the 17th of September, at the Lyric, they're going to have a movie about hemp. And I know a lot of you people do not want to vote about hemp because you felt like you needed to know more about hemp. So they're going to have a thing that starts at 6:30 that's going to talk about it, and then they're going to show you a film that's going to explain it, and they're going to talk about it. So then everybody, I think, should go and just look at this thing, and so you have a better perspective on what's going on. And I was almost going to say I would pay the $5 for you to go in, but I don't know if I will or not. But I hope, really seriously, I hope I do see everybody there, okay? At the Lyric, next Wednesday, 6:30, okay?
The, Mr. Pilates' ribbon cutting is
Yeah,
Friday at
Friday.
noon. Are you gonna be there?
Yeah, I
Will you be
can.
there?
I will.
I may have a conflict.
Okay, I
I've
can
already
take care
talked
of
to
it.
him, but,
But I told him I wanted to go, yeah.
okay.
So I really do, seriously. I think it's gonna be, informative.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
you're very welcome. Town manager, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, you sent something to council. I think you ought to mention it on the record, though, about the town of Christopher being noted as a extremely appropriate place to live.
We were selected number 2.
But the first town.
Yes, that was exactly my fault, was we finished second behind the city of Salem, so in my thought, that makes us the #1 town in the county, in the state in which to live. So that's the spin we want to put on this thing.
Well, I had heard you mention that, but I know you were awful proud of that, as we all were. I thought that should be mentioned on the record. Not to put you on the spot,
Mike,
but,
I just got a quick question for the board
Yes,
about the rec committee.
okay.
Truman Wilson property, are we gonna bid that out?
it's already, the RFP is,
Purchasing.
it's out.
No, it's not out.
It's not out.
We do have, we're getting buildings torn down. Bids are due Thursday. To tear the buildings down. The RFP, the purchasing agent is working on, is putting all the legal stuff to go with it.
What do you think the ETA on having that ready to be packaged and submitted, Mr. Hamels?
Hopefully within the next month.
What package is submitted? The demolition?
No, the actual RFP for the
plan.
for the renderings.
Plan.
I saw the demolition, so
And I appreciate, I should have brought that up. I appreciate you saying that. Bring that up.
Mondays and Thursdays I get questions about that whenever I drop my kids off.
All righty. Town manager.
Have 2 public hearings like to set. One is rezoning from R2 to B3 at 325 Falling Branch Road. And in conjunction with that request, CUP being requested to allow for residential use in the B3. And the second one is rezoning request of 2 Depot Street from northeast from I2 to B2. And I'd like to set those for the 28th of October.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, set 2 public hearings. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
There's Huckleberry Trail progress report, 3 places. Quick summary, the bridge is supposed to be complete over 114 in November. The phase from Canberra Street to Route 114 to Canberra Street to Recreation Center is basically complete. The section from Canberra Street to Providence Boulevard, Food Line Shopping Center, the plans are being completed. Sent to VDOT for approval. And the section from Food Line Shopping Center to Independence Boulevard, working on getting term services contracts with engineers so we can let that out for design. And the same thing, basically extension along Canberra Street will be through the term services contractor also.
So phase 2D, the engineer has addressed VDOT's 90% plan comments and has resubmitted.
No, it hasn't been resubmitted, I'm sorry, that everything will be submitted
Soon?
soon, I hope.
Okay. I hope by this time next month that'll be,
Usually doesn't take them too long to turn them around.
no, 90% should go right through. Okay, thank you, Mr. Helms.
And the last thing is like trying to set a work session for the week of the 22nd or 29th September to go over hopefully the final work session on the comp plan, and we'll be ready to do something with that. So,
Any particular time you're thinking, Mr. Helms, on that? Any time during those days, those days?
Thursdays are not good because it's a Citizen Academy.
Yes, sir.
It's the county, but other than that, nothing in particular. One night's 23rd is a council meeting, so I don't think you want to do it that night.
Do we want to do it prior to? Or would we be better to have it during the week, the day or two after the council meeting, to have time to digest it before making any kind of decisions the next night?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have it on Monday night and try to make a decision Tuesday night.
Okay. So how about the following Tuesday night, which is not a council meeting night? And that would give us a week. Or is that gonna carry us into?
30th?
That'd be 30th.
That's 30th.
30th.
Be good.
30th is good with me.
I'd be fine with that.
Fine with me.
Okay, 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock, what do you need, Barry?
Make it 6.
Whatever suits council.
Six would be good.
5:30, whatever would work.
Sam, 6?
Haven't kept up with
6 all right on the 30th?
6 is fine.
Okay. We'll set it for 6 on the 30th.
That's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much. Anything else to come before council?
One quick thing, real quick, just a status, Mr. Helms, the intersection of Depot and Roanoke Street, the left turn signal, the left arrow, is that operational now? It's been about almost 90 days or?
We're trying to get the parts for it. I think they've already ordered them.
Is there any time for?
We found a vendor to put those in, when there's something we were trying to piggyback on to the state.
Yeah, they're trying to, and don't think we can on that one, but they're working on getting the installed.
Any idea of when that will be installed? The residents have brought it to my attention when I did the street committee. We were asking about that. They haven't seen it yet. That's why I was asking.
I'll get a date.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Anything else to come before council? We are adjourned.